Hey, what is up? Welcome to this episode of the Entrepreneur to Entrepreneur podcast. As always, I'm your host, Brian Lofrumento, and I'm so excited about today's episode because we've got an awesome guest that I can tell his business is not about him. It's not about just a job or a career path. It is something that he wants to have radically change his industry, and even thinking bigger than that. I can tell this is a big thinker, radically changing the way that the world is and the way that we as consumers and people who are in residential homes, the way that we have different experiences to transform our spaces and in turn transform our minds and our worlds. Let me introduce you to today's guest. His name is Carl Nelson, with a diverse background spanning residential design and construction, as well as corporate architecture for national brands like Starbucks and McDonald's. Carl brings a unique perspective to the home building world. He's seen how efficient, consistent, and high quality construction can be at scale and is now building a team to bring that same level of professionalism and service to the residential construction industry. Through his company, Visual, Carl is on a mission to transform how homeowners experience construction, making it more transparent, reliable, and successful. I'm so excited about this. Carl's been at this for a while. Him and his business partner, they started their company during the pandemic, as we saw so many amazing companies pop up during that time. So I'm so excited to hear about his mission, the way that he operates. I'm not going to say anything else. Let's dive straight into my interview with Carl Nelson. All right, Carl, I am so very excited that you're here with us today. First things first, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Heck yes. Well, I obviously talked a little bit about your background leading up to this episode at the top of it, but I want to hear your backstory from you yourself. Take us beyond the bio. Who's Carl? How'd you start doing all these cool things?
Yeah, well, let's kind of start how I got into doing and being interested in what I do, and it's homes. And so when I was in middle school, our family bought 2 acres and built a home. It was me, my grandfather, my dad, a close family friend, and we built a home from ground up. And at 14 years old, I was the laborer. And so I think at that time, like carrying every single piece of plywood up and down the roof, I realized I probably didn't want to be the builder, but I did enjoy the process and seeing the home come together and just the plans and all that. So in high school, like the opportunity to learn how to do architectural drafting came. AutoCAD lab came to my senior year of high school, and I learned kind of that basic skill. Upon graduation, a local architect in town was looking to hire just someone who had a draft in AutoCAD. He was at the time transitioning from hand drawing to architecture. So we kind of learned AutoCAD and how to apply that to like just architecture, to him, and while he kind of taught me the basics of architecture. So spent from there, I just kind of spent several years in the residential industry, a couple different architectural firms, doing homes of all shapes and sizes. I think I was in 2003-04. I was then sent off to Kuwait for a year as just serving in the armed forces. Came back and decided to try something a little different architecture design wise, and ended up in kind of commercial architecture, serving customers with stores all across the country. Starbucks and McDonald's are kind of probably the 2 big ones I spent much of my time during that time.
Yeah, I love that overview, Carl, especially because in the business world, I always talk to people about the difference between small businesses. Of course, you and I can very much relate to what it means to be a small business versus those enterprise level. In your world, the more commercial solutions, obviously, they have some advantages. They've got bigger budgets than the rest of us. They've got much more labor at hand and so many more resources available to them. What's it been like from your perspective, seeing both sides of that world? And of course, I'm using all of this in a segue. Longer in this conversation, we're going to talk about your own entrepreneurial journey, but what are some of those things you picked up from both the residential side of the world as well as the commercial?
The big difference in the commercial and the residential side is just the knowledge and understanding of the process of the owner of the building. And so in Starbucks, McDonald's world, they have teams of in-house that know what I do and know how to partner with me and with builders, and they really kind of are centralized to building a team around building and remodeling all the locations they have all across the world. When you move into the residential world, the homeowner is not really sure what the process looks like or how they should gauge in it. Each builder, each architect, each designer, each vendor that's selling materials acts and functions in their own unique way. And, we kind of know that in the industry, but most homeowners don't. So it's really an often confusing, frustrating process for the homeowners that's riddled with delays and cost overruns left and right. And so it's become quite an untrusted industry.
Yeah, you talk about all of those frustrations. I live in Florida, and it feels like there's a new housing community every single week here, especially on the Gulf side of the state. It's just a blossoming place, and a lot of people want to move here, but new construction means a lot of headaches and frustrations that you're alluding to. What are some of those problems that you see in the marketplace, and some of those frustrations that you see from homeowners that you looked at that and you said, you know what, we can bring a better way of doing this. We can bring a solution to the marketplace.
Yeah, I would say that in the majority of middle housing and middle income folks who are trying to remodel their houses, there's not as many options for really good design services. And so when you get into commercial and high end, what architects or services providing is they're providing a full detailed list of every little thing in the house, a specification for every material that happens, where that material is bought, is it in stock, and so every little detail about it is on a plan, ready to go the day you start construction. Residential is much more of a figure out as you kind of go world. So architects aren't providing that kind of high level detailed design. It's more of a kind of design intent drawings versus design detail drawings. It's expensive for us to provide detailed drawings, and so I think design and architecture is seen as kind of a luxury item when it shouldn't be. I think with better design, we can make the process more efficient. And another big thing is that right now is that builders pretty much buy everything for the most part in most constructions. They're the ones in charge of purchasing all the materials. And that's just the way it works, Here's the plan. The builder goes and figures out. Usually each builder has their own 2 or 3 stores for each material type, and so usually that happens. That just kind of really slows down the process because right now we're currently facing just a lack of good builders in the industry, and while they're running around chasing materials, they're not building. And so what we think is that we should take over that builders should not kind of be buying the materials. We should be figuring out a different way of the purchasing process of materials.
Yeah. All right, Carl. Well, I'm going to use that because what I really appreciate about every single entrepreneur story is that you didn't just see problems, you didn't just see opportunities, you took action on it, obviously launched your own business. So introduce us to Visual. Talk to us about the foundation of Visual, what it is that you do, and really what sparked you to say, no, this isn't just an idea, this is something I'm going to take action on.
Yeah, right now, most of my day is just running a day-to-day architecture and home consulting company for homeowners. So the entrepreneurial part is I don't spend as much time on that as I'd like, but just kind of where we have about 20 active projects anywhere between early concept and in construction going on with our team. And so we're really starting from the early project process with the homeowner is generally they know they want to do something to their house, they just don't know where to start. And so we're taking them through kind of a design process. And as we're taking customers through the design process and we are building these tools as we go. And, we're looking to change the different kinds of tools we use to draw plans. Most of the CAD tools that we use today are very precision type tools, and they take time and energy and skill set to do that. So we're trying to simplify the design process a little bit, not be so precise, and really take through some conceptual design phases. So we're really trying to change the way we even approach just the traditional services as we do it in real time. So that's kind of the day-to-day. And as we get through the design process, we've developed kind of 4 steps to bring homeowners through to get to a final product. we're introducing homeowners to builders, going through a kind of an interview process with builders, helping with the acquirement of materials, and supporting throughout the entire construction project. So that's the big bulk of what we're doing, is we're trying to act as a traditional architecture firm, providing high-level prices, but trying to do that efficiently and a kind of a good value to our homeowners.
Yeah, Carl, you use the word traditional to describe the model that you have, but I would argue, as someone who interviews entrepreneurs and business owners for a living, that part of what's a little bit non-traditional in your industry is I love how mission-driven it is that you are. Every piece of marketing material of yours that I found, whether it be your website, your LinkedIn, it's so clear to me how much you want to make a positive change in your industry, in the world, in the way that people view these projects. Talk to me about that mission-driven approach.
Yeah, I mean, so I've remodeled my house, and I think, and I've seen how much. I mean, part of like the beginning of this journey was me just going through a major addition and remodel to my own house, and part of that challenge of that journey was just seeing the bills kind of add up and the costs add up, and my remodel actually happened in the middle of COVID, so lockdown happened. I have 3 high school kids, me and my wife all working from home while contractors are building our house. I think at one time the only functioning sink in the house was the kitchen sink, so it was a really challenge, and it also kind of pressed our budget for the time. This was a project we committed to before COVID started, so our financial system was a little different. Starting this company, there's a huge, challenge to just being able to afford housing. And so there's a huge challenge just throughout our region and throughout the country of just housing's not affordable. It's a common talk amongst politicians and all across, how do we fix affordable housing? And I think there's a lot of ways in which you can do that, but I think from my perspective and from my background, the way we can do that is just build houses a little smarter, build them more efficiently, because the whole entire process is just takes forever. Everything takes too long and costs too much. And, I see these problems happen every day, and I'm in the middle of them right now, and permitting is another big, huge challenge. And so all these different, people, these 50 different people that are required to build a house all need to kind of work together to kind of bring the cost of remodeling down a little bit. It's only getting more and more expensive. Every time I get a bid for a customer, it's more than I thought it would be, and it's a little disheartening for people just to maintain older homes throughout the life of them without them kind of dying away. And
Yeah, Carl, listeners already know this. Over the years, we've had a few people from your industry and your line of work here on the show, and I always relish the chance to talk to people like you, because something you just mentioned, you said it takes about 50 people to build a house. It's not the same person who puts the drywall up as it is that does the electrical, that does the plumbing. There's so many different people and so many different moving parts and so many different timelines. So my question to you, Carl, is how the heck do you personally, as a business owner, but also as someone obviously in your industry, how does your organizational and operational mind work? Is it that you picture everything that goes into these projects and you can make that work from that visual perspective, or are there tools that you leverage? How the heck do you stay organized with so many moving parts?
Yeah, we've built kind of the software tool that kind of is the backbone to everything we do. Just, we're not software guys, but about 10 years ago, Smartsheet is a tool that we've learned and figured out how to use for our advantage, and so it's a very collaborative work tool. And so Smartsheet's a company that's based here locally. It's just a cloud-based spreadsheet with lots of other bells and whistles, and we've kind of figured out, the thousands of projects we did for Starbucks with hundreds of people on those projects was based on Smartsheet, and we built and developed that for Starbucks, and Starbucks is still using some of those tools today in projects. And so what we did is kind of take 6 years of building kind of process for thousands of Starbucks across the country with this 50-man team, which is more than that in the commercial world, but gearing that specifically towards the residential world, and more specifically, what's the customer experience in all of this? And so how are they seeing it? How are they understanding what's going on from the day-to-day? We keep track of the steps in the process, as well as every single little, they want this color tile or this type of toilet. Every single little detail is tracked in kind of a unified system that, we've kind of modeled after our corporate, experiences.
Yeah, I want to continue on this theme because part of listeners know that I always ask my guests, what's your zone of genius? And I love your answer because you went straight to talking about collaboration. Here we are talking in this part of the conversation about all the different moving pieces. What a lot of people probably don't realize about your line of work is that it is a lot of remote collaboration as well. Talk to us about those challenges, those opportunities. I love the fact that it means you get to pull from and pull together talent from all different angles and all different people that you know. Talk to us about that collaboration that you help facilitate.
Yeah, I mean, it's an ongoing struggle. I think the collaboration part is to try and to emulate what my corporate experience is, because we're working with so many different people from different places. They all kind of have their own way of doing it. So it's trying to, we have our smart sheets and things that we've built, but trying to get the rest of the world to engage in something that we built is the challenge. So a lot of collaboration is just, and this is kind of what exists today, is just lots of text, emails, phone calls that are kind of hard to keep track of. And I think the challenge in the collaboration is that exists within the industry itself, is that there is a little bit of just disdain between builders and subcontractors and the city officials and us as design professionals. Everyone kind of wants you be done with your job. Now it's my turn, and so there right now that's the struggle, and I'm still struggling with that with current builders and cities. And it's just a constant thing to try and how do we get everyone talking on the same page and collaborating together. And so I wish I had the answer of how exactly that's going to happen in the residential world, and that's what we're just continually diving into, like every day really, is how we can better improve that.
Yeah, I love the fact that you lay out all these different stakeholders for us, and the fact that you're thinking about it obviously means that you're doing very important work there. But let's talk about the most important stakeholder of all, the end customer, that consumer that it is that you're working with. You've already said the words. I love hearing in your industry someone use the word customer experience, and you also talk about service. Talk to us about some of the ways that you embed that into the way that you operate, the way that your company operates, to really build that positive experience for your clients.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that we're probably doing okay at that right now. The customer experience, but it's the most important thing, because right now that there is the customer expectation of the experience is already bad. Everyone, when you say you're going to go do a remodel, the expectation is good luck. So the only thing we can do is just communicate between all parties, and that's probably the biggest challenge we're having, is just how do we get people to collaborate, and so it's just a lot of just just a lot of conversations constantly with everyone, and trying to bring people in some way on the same page of how we should be doing this. It's finding the right partners, because there's a lot of builders out there that have been building houses, good builders building houses for years, and they don't care about changing anything. That's the struggle, is they just want to keep doing things the same way they've been doing them. And so part of collaboration for us is trying to find the right partners that want to have some like-minded visions.
Yeah, when you talk about change, I imagine that your industry, whether they want it or not, they're going to be forced to change, obviously, because of all of the technological advancements. And thinking back even to your high school days and how much you've learned and leveraged technology as part of your leg up in the industry, how's AI factoring into your industry at this point?
Very little, I would say. I mean, we're using it on some aspects of design, like rendering stuff, but very little. I think there's not a huge appetite, because like the building industry is the builders are the ones that need to change, and adapt to things. We're trying to build houses in different methods, using AI tools, using 3D printing, using modulation. There's all different great ideas on how we should kind of change the way we actually build houses, but we've been building houses the same way with stick framing for 100 years, and it's just the same builders that are building the same way, and the vast majority of those builders don't want to change. They have the grip on the market, and so they don't want to do anything differently. So that's where we're trying to find partners that are, and that's just a big challenge that we're continually go through with the people we find out there.
Yeah, Carl, I want to switch gears a little bit because in these conversations, I always love talking not only to you as the subject matter expert, but also as one of us, also as a fellow entrepreneur. And I'm going to pick on something that you wrote on your LinkedIn because I think that it so deeply reveals how much you think about the mindset side of things. Because let's face it, all of us entrepreneurs, we know that so much of entrepreneurship is a mindset struggle. It's the way that we look at the world. It's the way that we find solutions. It's the way that we're persistent and resilient. I want to read for listeners this that I saw on your LinkedIn. It says to take something that is old, broken, or requiring change so that it can be transformed, given new life and purpose. Not only physical objects, but also our minds. Carl, it's clear to me that that transcends not just the work that you do, but also the mindset and the entrepreneurial DNA that you have inside of you. What does that mean to you? What's the meaning there that it's so prevalent in the way that you operate?
Yeah, thanks for reading that. I haven't probably wrote that a while ago. I haven't heard that in a while. So thanks for bringing that up. I think the transition of COVID from working a corporate job to working a lot of hours, and it's something that kind of was getting frustrating. And transitioning to this, I think there was a whole mindset shift and kind of. I know for me, especially during COVID, of sitting at home and not doing a lot, that, really making sure, for any of this change to happen, my mind and the mind of the people, that are working with us, we need to make sure we're taking that into account. And for me, I always want to encourage people to find that place that you can kind of get into that good mindset. And for me, it's skateboarding. I started skateboarding in COVID at 44 years old, and I skate every day. The office I have right here is selected because it's a block and a half from the skate park, so I'm there all the time. So it's a great place to just make sure my mind's right to kind of do the things that we're doing, because it's not easy doing all this stuff and coming up with being the only guy that's thinking of all these ideas. And so I always need a place to kind of just get my mind straight and get in the right mindset of things.
Yeah, I want to talk about that then. Not because I'm a skateboarder, but because when I moved to Los Angeles, I was so drawn to the Venice Beach skate park. If you just stand there, you see some incredible talent. But Carl, I'll tell you what I saw all the days and hours that I spent standing there. And that is what really struck me is that in skateboarding, it seems to me like you have to be willing to fall in order to get better. There's no other way to get better as a skateboarder. Not a single skateboarder on planet Earth ever got better or learned new things by not falling. Please, with that skateboarding mindset on, especially one that started at 44. Carl, I'm 36. I don't want to fall. My knees are already 80 years old. Yeah. Talk to me about that mindset of being willing to fall, and actually not only being willing to fall, but having to fall, because as entrepreneurs, we don't hope for those falls, but they're inevitable in our journeys.
Yeah, I mean, the skateboarding analogies and learning that and doing that and starting a business are, there's tons of them. I think, the falling part is but it's just the doing over and over and over again, constantly. You just got to do it over and over again, and you're falling and falling. And that's really whenever, the skate experience is the most amazing. I could probably talk for hours about just skating and the community of people that I've built with it. But I think, just being able to you just got to do it over and over again. You just got to keep doing it. And that's really kind of the big lesson of skateboarding is just and you're going to fall, and but you have to do it again. And so I could spend a half hour doing the same thing over and over again. And so that really translates to what we're doing. Just not, every project we do, we just got to keep doing projects and learn from that and do it a little differently. And that's kind of what's getting is you do it, just change your body angle. It's really minor and minutia things when you start getting better. It's little movements of the toes and the shoulders. And so that's the same in business. You just, everything might be good, but there's just little tweaks. And I'm constantly poking my partner, this isn't working, and annoying him. We got to tweak this. And but we're just figuring out this yet. Yeah, but we got to tweak this. So it's just constant minor adjustments. And that's the same thing from business to skating.
Yeah, when I hear about those minor adjustments though, Carl, what I really want to give you credit for that I think is underlying all of that is self-awareness and taking inventory and being aware of what's around you. You talk about annoying your business partner and saying, hey, this isn't working great. I would argue not everybody's like that, Carl, and that's probably why you are a great entrepreneur and business owner, is because you assess the situation and you reassess the situation, and you can find joy in the monotony and you can find joy in those minute improvements. Where does that come from? Is it something that you sit down with every single week and you say, hold on, let me be super intentional about the way that I think about these things, and you take inventory of your life, your business? Or is it something you do on the fly? I'd love some of those executive, strategic minded insights.
Man, I don't know if there's a specific strategy about it. It's probably a little bit of ADHD coming through, of just constantly my mind constantly moving and thinking about, I'm always generally very forward thinking. I generally don't dwell on whatever happened. Probably my wife wishes I dwelled on what happened a little bit more, I'd say, but I'm always very forward thinking, and I'm always probably thinking ahead to the next step, and I'm always thinking 5 steps ahead. And that's kind of like, that is architecture. Architects do have that kind of mind of what, we put these walls here. What's it going to look like when it's all trimmed out and finished? And so that's what we do as architects, is thinking about like what that end thing is going to look like. What's the inside to the outside? I don't know. That's the best I can tell you, I guess.
Yeah, I love that. Well, then I'm going to put you on the spot then, Carl. I'm just going to use that against you and say, all right, when you think about the future with your business and with your entrepreneurial hat on, what's that timeline that you look at? I've found so many different people think about the future in different ways. Some think about next week, something about next quarter, something about next year, something about 10 years. I also know that you want to change your industry in such positive ways. We talk about the affordability of things. You talk about that very visceral story of only having one working sink during a renovation. So when you think about the future of your company and your impact, how far is it that you look, and what does that look like?
If I look a few years out, we're not trying to be the only designer or trying to have the only builders around. We're trying to kind of, this is the process in which way you build homes, and building, a tool in which all builders and designers can get into this process and have and change the process. And so we're trying to own the process of building, not trying to own the design, not trying to be designers of the building, but the process in which way it all happens. And so thinking long term, I would love to have a good lion's share of the local Seattle market of builders and designers using our tool that we've developed to help build the whole process become more collaboratively and more efficient. And and beyond that, we'd love to create expand other markets. Each construction market its own unique in its own way. So we'd love to expand to other markets beyond Seattle with the process. If I'm looking beyond that, so and beyond that, the affordable housing thing's a big thing. So we would love to see a significant, building homes our way is cheaper than everyone else's, and that's and I'd love for that just to be the thing that we can do, and how can we take these skills and now be able to help others. How can we use this as a charitable thing too, to help build housing for those that can't afford it. And the home is the most important place for anyone. Most people, some people don't have that experience of a great home, and that's sad. And my hope is that we can have create the place of home for everyone.
Yes, I love that, Carl. That is a mission that I know that we can all get on board for. And I'm obviously biased here, but I'm a big believer that entrepreneurs are those change agents. So I love the fact that there's people like you, Carl, who identify these opportunities. You say, we have a better way of doing this. Let's bring it to the market. And you have an obligation, Carl. And I'm so glad that you're living up to that and matching it every single day. So with all of that in mind, it's been so much fun hearing your thoughts and perspectives, not only on your industry, but also hearing about the way you think as an entrepreneur. So I'm going to put you on the spot one last time and ask you for your best piece of advice with that entrepreneurial hat on, and understanding that we're being listened to by both entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs at all different stages of their own growth journeys. What's that one piece of entrepreneurial advice that you want to leave everyone with today?
It takes longer than you think. I mean, that's it. This is taken much longer than I thought just to get where we're at right now. So it just takes patience. I mean that's the only thing. That's the only thing I can have is patience to continue on what we're doing, because we're definitely not where we're at right now or where we want to be. So patient, but like I'm very promised for what lies ahead and what we've done so far. So it's just patience.
Yes, I love that. Listeners, I know most of you can't see Carl and I right now, but he had a big smile on his face as he said those words. It takes longer than you think, because truer words have never been spoken. That is an absolute fact when it comes to all of our journeys in life, especially in business. So Carl, I really appreciate those real life insights. I also know that people are going to be excited to check out. I feel like I've tooted your horn not only for your business and your website, but especially for all the goodness that you put onto your LinkedIn. I just really love the way that you show up in the world. I love the brand that you've built, how you lay out the purpose of the work that you do on your website. So Carl, kicking it back to you, drop those links on us for listeners who want to see more about your business and all the great work that you're doing.
Yeah, our website is visualpnw.com. We post a lot about stories about projects and what individual projects go through about as well, so you can see from the customer experience. We're starting to develop just customer blogs for each of our projects to understand what that process is like, as well as just talks about us and our story and what we do.
Yes, listeners, you already know the drill. We're dropping that link down below in the show notes, no matter where it is that you're tuning into today's episode. Super easy to remember. Great domain name, visualpnw.com. That's Visual Pacific Northwest. You can remember it that way. Carl's based up in the Pacific Northwest. So visualpnw.com. We're also linking to Carl's personal LinkedIn. If you want to see all that goodness that I've really interjected into our conversation here today, click through via the show notes down below. Otherwise, Carl, on behalf of myself and all the listeners worldwide, thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Brian, thanks so much for having me. Really appreciate the time.